Hi friends, so I was reading about China has ended its post-production testing of its cosmetics on animals. There's a lot of people who are they say they're animal activists, and some of them are not vegan, and some of them promote animal welfare rather than veganism. And I've talked about what's the problems with that, because if we're against cruelty to non-human animals, then we should just be promoting veganism, because there's no such thing as humane use of animals. There really isn't. And even if there was, it would still be wrong. So when I see people sort of focusing on single issue campaigns that are trying to eliminate a certain form of animal use, and usually that is something that most people don't do, like they can sort of ban, they want to ban fur or something like that. The main form of animal use is where people eat animals animal products. That's where 99% of animal use occurs, is for food. So I'm mentioning this cosmetic ban on testing on animals because that's a very, very small percentage of animals that are used today. And although it's really awful, torturing and killing animals for unnecessary reasons, guess what else is unnecessary? Eating animal products. We don't need to use animal products at all. We don't need them to survive. We can easily meet all our nutrition requirements from plants and other non-animal sources. So the only reason we're eating these animal products is because we think they taste good. And that's not good enough. It's not morally justifiable to be torturing and killing 1 trillion plus land and aquatic animals every year for trivial reasons of mostly palate pleasure. So if we care about our use of animals for food, if we think that it's a trivial thing, it's unnecessary, just like cosmetic testing, cosmetic torturing and killing of animals, for cosmetics is unnecessary. They're both trivial, they're both unnecessary. So what I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't be focusing on cosmetic bans if you want to see the end of cruelty to animals. We should be focusing on a total end to the use of animals, because yes, cosmetic testing on animals is just awful and torturous. Putting stuff in their eyes and on their skin and all sorts of awful things. And the so-called welfare standards, I think, in some countries are way worse. I mean, any of the welfare standards, if they were applied to human beings, would be considered torture. Some are worse than others, but I mean, torture is torture. So it's torturous for animals in the food that are used for food, for dairy, eggs, meat, and all those other animal products. And they're torturous, for animal testing. It's all awful. And it's all unnecessary and trivial. So if we're going to concern ourselves with things like cosmetic testing on animals, and it's great that China did that, but I mean, everybody's still eating animal products. Everybody's still wearing animal products. Everybody's still using animals. So, even though that might be good for a small percentage of animals, what about all the billions of animals, billions and billions that we are torturing and killing every year for food? Another completely unnecessary thing to be doing. We don't need those animal products at all to survive, as I've just said. So we have to really start, this is a plea to anybody who says that they're against cruelty to animals. If you're against cruelty to animals, then you need to reject all animal use, because it's all using sentient animals as resources. It is all cruel. There's varying sort of awfulness, but it's all sort of cruel. And even if we put them in lovely little stalls and stroked them to sleep at night and played Mozart during the day and all of that, and then in the end we stroked their head gently and slit their throat, even if we did all of that and it was all done in sort of nice ways, this humane sort of thing, it would still be wrong, because we don't need to do that. We do it because we can. And they are sentient, just like you and I. They love life just like you and I and do not want to die. And just like you and I, they have self-awareness. They have their likes and dislikes. They have individual personalities. They are just like the dogs and cats whom we call family members and whom we claim we love, and are absolutely devastated when something happens to them. The only reason we haven't recognized that is because we don't have a personal relationship with those animals. We don't have a personal relationship like I would have with the sweet refugees of domestication I have here living with me. We don't have the same relationship that I say have with the sweet refugees of domestication that I have living with me. These little cats that I have living with me that I adopted. And I recommend anybody adopt these refugees of domestication, because we created this situation for them. So anyway, but these animals that are on our plates and that we wear on our backs and that we use they all have individual personalities and sentience, just like these the dogs and cats whom we say we love and whom we are absolutely devastated about if something happens to them. In fact, it was interesting. On Instagram, I followed this account. It's a very popular account. I'm not crazy that they've obviously bought this cat rather than adopted them. And the name of the cat is Suki, S-U-K-I, and they're some sort of a special breed, and so they are able to get out. They're able to take them out into the forest and on plains, and they're a very relaxed kind of cat, and they don't get really stressed like any sort of usual domestic cat would. They're very, very calm. So they're able to go traveling with them, and they take lots of photos with them. And the account on Instagram has 1,300,000 people following it. And just recently, and probably because this little cat, and the cat is a lovely cat, just like any cat. I mean, I can put aside the fact that they've bought that cat, and it's obviously been bred into existence, and they bought that cat. I can put that aside for just recognizing that cat has its own personality, just like the animals we eat, wear, and use, has sentience and all of that, which is all that matters. And but it's interesting that I'm sure that the 1,300,000 people that follow that account, who were extremely distressed just recently when this little cat got very sick and it looked like that Suki was going to die. And there was absolutely thousands of comments when Suki got sick a few days ago. Thousands. And everybody was so distraught over this little cat becoming sick and looking like she was going to die. She had some sort of infection, and it looked like that was the end of her life. And I think to myself, all these people, they have the makings of being vegan, because if they were able to extend that understanding and that recognition of sentience to all the animals on their plates and the ones that they wear on their back and so forth, they would instantly sort of realize they needed to go vegan. Everybody who loves a dog or a cat or a rabbit, or they have some sort of a pet in quotes, sort of can see the sentience in that animal after getting to know them for a little while. You can see it. So all those people, everybody has this seed of a vegan ethic in them, a vegan, of being able to. They already have the understandings of why we need to go vegan in them already, because they can recognize that in a cat. And cats aren't special. All those 1,300,000 people who are upset over this sweet little cat Suki, and I was one of them. I felt very distressed that she suddenly became ill. But in some ways I wasn't surprised, because she's obviously highly bred too. I'm going to save my ideas about the whole pet industry thing for another day. But just to say, every animal, dogs and cats, they're refugees of domestication, and society still views them as property, even though we see them as like family members and such. But all those people who are very upset about Suki being gravely ill, and now she's bouncing back, and everybody's now so relieved, they all have the seeds of veganism in them, because they recognize the sentience in Suki, and that same sentience, there are no levels of sentience. Sentience is in all the animals that we eat, wear, and use, including aquatic animals. So you see, it's an interesting thing, this sort of how we morally compartmentalize and treat cats as if there's something special, or dogs as if there's something special, when really It's just because we have gotten to know them and we have recognized their sentience just through a personal connection to them because they're living with us. So it makes me sad because I think, look at those potential vegans in that on that account, talking about how upset they were when Suki got sick. And I see also, tens of thousands of people following other cat accounts and dog accounts, and everybody sees the specialness of these non-human animals. They see the sentience, and they love them like they would people. But every single animal that is on our plates, and every single animal, and the dairy products and the cheese and the yogurt and the eggs, all the animals that died for those products, and yes, dairy is tremendous violence, and it's not only bad for us and bad for the planet, it's tremendous violence. Eggs are the result of tremendous violence and so forth. All animal products are problematic. Though all those animals that were used for those animal products had the same level of sentience as Suki does, as any of these other cats or dogs whom we follow on Instagram or anywhere else, or that we know from up the street or wherever. All have the equal sentience and are morally equally important. So that's something that we need to sort of try and sort of think about, consider. It might sound really foreign to us to hear that, to hear somebody saying that, but that is the fact. That is a fact. And yes, aquatic animals are sentient. Even scientists recognize that. So all the fish that we think, just because we can't see them showing emotions we're familiar with, and just because they're not like us, in quotes, does not mean they have lesser moral value than those other animals. So anyway, when I saw that article about the cosmetic, like the banning of post-production, I don't know, does that mean they still do they probably still use a lot of animals, torture them and kill them while they're making these cosmetic products. And it's all unnecessary. Pretty much every single animal experiment that goes on in the world today is completely unnecessary and can be replaced with non-animal alternatives. The only reason we don't do that is because we can, is because animals are in law are property. And laws have been found out to be, there have been all sorts of unfair and unjust laws in the world for centuries. And this is one of them, that animals are property and we can use them as resources and they have no rights. You cannot have rights if you're property. And giving primates rights in some countries will make no difference to all the other animals we use for food. That's just fetishization of animals that remind us of us. As I said, we do not need, they don't need to be like us for them to deserve the right not to be used as a thing. Anyway, so, this cosmetic ban, even though I sort of think, well, that's a small thing, but it's like they'll still be testing cosmetics in production. There are, I think about 100 million plus animals used every year, tortured and killed. All species, cats, dogs, the whole lot. They don't even count how many rats they use or mice. They're not even included in the count. And they use millions and millions and millions of them, and they do all sorts of shockingly awful things. But that is, as I said, it's only a small percentage of the animal use that goes on today. And if we care about the animals who are on our plates and that we wear, etc., but the ones on our plates, which are 99% of the use of animals today, we will care about the ones who are being tortured and killed in these dreadful, dreadful experiments all over the world, could be replaced, and most of them are completely trivial and whimsical. So that's why if you are against cruelty, then you must be vegan, and that's why promoting veganism is the best thing you can do. Forget about all these single issue campaigns and the bans and boycotts. They will come and go while animals are still viewed as property. And the only way the property status is going to change is when most of society is vegan. That's when we will demand the end to the property status of animals and the end to their use. Only when there's a really great groundswell of a grassroots movement, a grassroots vegan movement. Forget all this animal welfare nonsense. It's all torture. If it was applied to humans, it would be considered torture. Forget about that. They're only going to do what is economically efficient, and it will always involve torturing animals. in these, even on free-range stuff. It's all about economic efficiency, and in the end, even on these free-range things, when they're no longer productive, they're killed. So forget about all of that. Just go vegan and encourage others to go vegan. And there's an exponential shift now. It's no longer a fringe philosophy, veganism. It's become mainstream, and now it's actually starting to take hold. And I see more and more of these large industries realizing that vegan customers are becoming a larger proportion of the population. And in capitalism, that's what happens. If they see a niche growing, they exploit it. So I'm not into buying really the vegan products because a lot of it is junk food. But I mean, if it helps people, so if pretend animal products that are plant-based helps people make the transition, you don't need to eat those products. But if it helps people make the transition, then that's fine, the plant-based stuff. But I've noticed that there's more and more industries, big ones, really big ones, who are starting to put out vegan products. So it just shows how much of a shift has taken place. And this is even just in the 14 years that I've been vegan, I've noticed a huge shift now. And I really, at one point, didn't actually think that would happen. And then suddenly in the last 3 or 4 years, I've noticed it's really, really exponentially. It's like that thing I say where when algae is on a pond, it starts off very slowly and you hardly notice it. And then it moves across, and then it gets halfway, and it's been very slow up until that point, and then suddenly it's all over the pond. Well, we're sort of at, I think, almost the halfway mark as far as the exponential shift, and I think it's starting to really, really take hold now. So, there's a lot more vegans in the world. In fact, I mean, there's so much happening now, like even where I live in the capital city, about an hour from me, they've got these vegan community dinners, that they have, and people go along, you make a donation, and then you sort of eat a whole bunch of fantastic vegan food. There's more and more of that. There's sort of vegan festivals everywhere. There's vegan markets turning up. It's just really, really becoming a thing. And that's so great because we have to, if we believe in nonviolence and justice, then we really have to be vegan. It's a first step to a nonviolent life. Anyway, I hope that you will consider becoming vegan. If you're not vegan, please consider asking me questions about it in the comments section. I'm more than happy to talk to you as long as they're sincere questions and they're not, and you've done a little bit of research, then great. And please check out my vegan podcast. It's a comprehensive vegan podcast, howtogovegan.org. Please check that out. I think you'll find it very useful. Anyway, so thanks so much for watching. Go vegan for peace. My name's Trisha Roberts, and please click the like button if you like the content. Please subscribe and click the notifications bell. Otherwise, you won't receive any notifications when I drop a video. And please leave comments. Okay, so thanks so much for watching. My name's Trisha Roberts. You're watching Veganism Vega. Till next time. Bye for now.